Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again in this YouTube astrological segment. I'm going to be talking about astrology and the death of rapper Lil Loaded. Lil Loaded has died, and I believe it was on this day, on Monday, May 31st, 2021. He was only 20 years old, born August 1st, 2000. Excuse me, people. First thing I want to do is I want to offer my prayers and condolences to the close friends and family members of Lil Loaded. It's terrible when you hear about these stories of people that have tragically passed away at a very young age, especially. The cause of death has not been confirmed yet at the time I made this video, but there's some speculation that it was attributed to suicide. There was some kind of post on Twitter where Lil Loaded apparently had sent some kind of message out, and he had showed it to his fans through some photo or something that he was going to, be with the Lord soon. I'm going to go to see if I can go to it. It starts out with him saying, quote, "Dear Most High, please forgive me for my shortcomings and all the times I felt short of making you proud and being appreciative of the blessings." And then it goes on further, of course. But what I wanted to, it's telling me that at the end it says something about heart and soul to join you. So what it intimates is to me, and I concur with what the fans said that made this had this picture. It's basically intimating he was going to kill himself, sadly. So I believe that is what happened. And I'm going to talk about some natal placements and transits that might have contributed astrologically to his passing, sadly. Now, he is a sun in Leo, again, August 1st, 2000. I don't have a time of birth for him, so I had to improvise once again and do a solar/sunrise chart. And means sun in Leo. It's at 9 degrees, which is a critical degree based on the solar/sunrise time. And the moon is either in Leo or Virgo, depending on time of birth. If the sun and the moon are indeed both in the same sign of Leo, it could show that energy, which the sun is the conscious, the moon the unconscious, that the unconscious and conscious can be tied together, though they may not be conjunct each other, but they are very much the same, because the sun is also our basic wants, and then the moon, the emotional needs. If they're in the same sign, they will be basically the same. Of course, it's more intensified when you have a conjunction. Of course, it's more integrating. But when you have, if the sun and the moon are in the same sign, the basic wants and emotional needs can be the same. So the thing about it is, when I look at this, look at his chart. I mean, the sun in Leo, of course, could be the consummate performer and entertainer. Sun, of course, is in its dignity in Leo. And the thing about this is and I'm sure he was somebody that was very dignified and had a lot of pride, and a person that had a lot of self-assuredness and confidence as far as the sun being in Leo, his basic character goes. And the thing about this, what I've noticed looking at his chart as far as the indicators for his death, the first thing I noticed, it stands out natally, is that he does have Pluto and Chiron in Sagittarius conjunct each other. And the thing, it's a fairly close conjunction as well. Pluto and Chiron are also both retrograde, which could suggest that Pluto is death. Chiron could be about physical wounds, but these things both, it can be self-inflicted. Self-injurious. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that word, but anyway. And the fact is, it's interesting. It may have had a connection with some kind with religion, because if he did indeed, he wrote that note saying that he was going to be, basically with God, with the higher power. And it makes me wonder too. And I'm not saying this as derogatory or anything, but I'm speculating. With Chiron and Sagittarius, could there have been, Chiron could be connected with diminished self-worth, in self-esteem. It could be, feelings, being inept, ineptitude. And being in Sagittarius, was there something connected with religion where he felt inept, that he didn't feel maybe he lived up to what God's expectations were? And maybe this was somehow tied into him doing this if he did indeed commit suicide. Was there some issues with higher education? And the fact you have Pluto conjunct Chiron by itself, that could indicate a death that would have often more trauma to it and physical injury. Now, being in Sagittarius, I don't think there were any physical wounds connected with the liver or thigh area or anything near the sciatic nerve. I think there was just issues, may have been some issues again with religion, or maybe just about being enthusiastic, exuberant, expansive. The conjunction in the solar/sunrise chart falls in the fifth house of entertainment, interestingly enough, and its personal popularity. I wonder if there was just something with that might have gotten to him. A lot of times I believe when you have very young people, that they attain some kind of success or notoriety or recognition very early, it might get to them. And I'm just wondering if maybe somehow this might have played some role in this. Now, another thing too is that when I look at the transits, well, first, another natal placement I want to get at is that he does have uh, Pisces on the cusp of the eighth house of death. Now, Pisces on the eighth house cusp by itself in the solar sunrise chart again, by itself can increase a little, give a little more proclivity of a death by suicide, perhaps even through drugs. He also has transit Jupiter, is fairly close proximity to the natal, to that eighth, not natal, but the solar/sunrise eighth house cusp. And I've spoken about this before, that Jupiter, though it's strongly benign and benevolent, can be paradoxical. It could also have a tendency to enlarge and expand. Transit Jupiter is in Pisces, the sign associated with drugs, alcohol, suicide, and it's very close, not far from his eighth house cusp of death. He also has transit Neptune in that eighth house as well, and Neptune, of course, is associated with suicide. It's also in Pisces, the sign associated with suicide. And the thing about it is, looking at this chart, the ruler of that eighth house, one of the rulers, Jupiter, is in the 10th house of fame, what's 10th house of notoriety, recognition. So it's not surprising that his death was gaining some kind of, sadly, some notoriety and recognition. Another thing that I noticed in his chart is that he does have Saturn in Taurus at the 29th degree, and Saturn, of course, could be connected, with sorrow, despondency. And he has it at the 29th degree, which is a critical anaretic degree. It's a crisis degree in astrology. It's conjunct Jupiter. Now, Saturn in Taurus by itself, even though generational, can indicate in some cases some limitations, restrictions, and sorrow associated with self-worth, self-esteem, and might be issues with perseverance or persistence. The fact that it conjuncts Jupiter can enlarge and expand those issues. Another thing, looking at his chart as well, is that he does have one of the rulers of the fourth house. Now, fourth house cusp in the solar sunrise chart is Scorpio, and that could have been an indicator that the end of life may have come, through something with trauma. It might have been done somewhat surreptitiously, secretly, which in a lot of cases, if it is suicidal, of course it can be, but maybe more so in this case than a lot of others. And one of those rulers falls in the 12th house. The end of life falls in the 12th house of suicide, is Mars and Leo. And it can be And also the fact that it's an indicator that the end of life may have taken place in solitude and seclusion. Transit Mars was not far from his natal North Node in Cancer at the time of the passing. I don't know if there was any situation, with family or people he was close to home with. Um, there's also the fact is Mars, of course, can be associated with gunfire, and it's not far from the North Node. When you have transits that involve the North Node in astrology, they can be about issues one may have to address or and confront at this time. And the thing about it is, Cancer is also associated, safety and security, introversion. I don't know if maybe it was something maybe tied in where he didn't have, maybe being famous, maybe he didn't have that safety and security he had previously. He didn't have maybe that life, that home life that he really desired. Hold on a moment, people. And Scorpio on the cusp of the fourth house by itself can indicate that the home life may be a little bit turbulent and tumultuous anyway, with a lot of, might be some crisis and upheaval connected with it. I noticed too, he does have in his natal chart, he has the sun opposite Neptune. And that could be, indicator of really you feeling like no matter what you've done, you're not attaining that dream, what you fantasize about, your ideals. And the thing about it is, no matter how much you effort put, I mean, the sun in Leo, I mean, Leo can nearly be inexorable. The sun is the vitality and energy. So people with the sun in Leo can really have that near indefatigable, inexorable energy. And he might have, no matter what he, in his mind, what he might have felt, no matter what he did and what actions he did, how much energy he expended, he wasn't really attaining maybe what he wanted. Maybe the being Neptune and Aquarius, maybe it had something to do, with groups or friends, or could even be maybe something, being innovative. Who really, I mean, knows this 100%? And I'm just speculating this as a possibility based on his natal placement. And what I noticed, sadly too, going back, of course, we're in retrograde Mercury now. I noticed that his Pluto opposes his Jupiter, and sadly, Pluto is in Sagittarius in his chart, and that might be, it could indicate a death that might be tied in, to some, maybe in some connection with religion, and it opposes Jupiter, which is of course associated um, with religion. And I'm just wondering if maybe he just didn't have, maybe there was some lack of really having, gaining what he wanted, um, as far as maybe trying to transform himself, maybe through religion, and maybe he felt no matter how much he did, he couldn't, really, or trying to gain power in his life, maybe through religion, and whatever he did, maybe he just felt he couldn't maybe, should say maybe control of his life through religion. Maybe he just felt like he couldn't quite do it no matter what, how much he tried. And anyways, really not much, not much more, to really, talk about as far as his natal placements and transits that might have been, tied in to his passing. But again, I just want to offer my condolences to the close friends and family members of Lil Loaded, and may he be in a better place right now. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.